Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right. Hey, you figured it out, Mark. Good to see you, buddy.
Oh, it's always an adventure.
We are good. We are good. All right. Couple people still joining here. Let's submit this. If you are joining us and you want to put your video on, feel free. We'd love to see your smiling face in the morning. If you just want to kind of hang out and listen in, that's totally cool too. We have our panelists all here. Just waiting on one here. Let's see if we can get Cyndee. We are live streaming as well through Facebook. That should be working right now. Okay, Cyndee needs a link, so she's having a hard time. See, Mark, you're not the only one, my man. Not the.
Yeah, no, and she just texted me, and I just forwarded her the link that you sent me as well.
All right, so she should be good then. I can send her this too. Let's see if that helps. All right, guys, we're going to get rolling. I think Cyndee should be joining in just a second. And we got some great panelists today. We have a great topic. And methods of mega agents. So I think that's kind of a sexy topic to dive into. Cyndee's in our waiting room. There we go. So we'll be diving into that. Let me just quickly say a couple of things about the platform for those of you who might be either joining us on Facebook for the first time or even hopping here on Zoom. I know we have about 20 something here listening in live on Zoom so far. And Tampa Bay Real Producers is a platform based for the Tampa Bay market. We service the Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco County area here, which if you know anything about the demographics of the area, there are about 25,000 licensed real estate agents in the Tampa Bay market. So our platform is designed to feature and promote and create a collaboration among the top 500 producers in the Tampa Bay market. No matter what brokerage you're with, a boutique brokerage, a big name national brand brokerage, an individual agent starting your own brokerage, if you're a top producer, then you're part of the community. And if you technically from an MLS standpoint, last year that means over $11 million in volume was what it would have taken for someone to be in the top 500. So that's who gets the magazine that we produce. We produce a monthly magazine, 12 issues a year, and we also send a digital version of that magazine to the top 3,000 agents in Tampa Bay, just to give you guys a little incentive to get into the top 500 next year. So give you a little taste of what that issue is all about. So if you're someone who hasn't been featured yet, and you did over 11 million last year, feel free to reach out to us and we can try to get you on our calendar. I know we have many features coming up here soon that we are very excited about for the rest of this year. Some of the people you're going to hear from here this morning are actually going to be featured in upcoming issues. Some of them, like Heather, were just on a recent issue, and we'll be, have a little bit of all that here starting up. So congratulations if you are a top 500 producer. Of course, it just shows how committed you are to your business. And one of the things that we tend to hear a lot as far as feedback from agents that we've met is just the how nice it is to be able to collaborate with people from other brokerages that have different opinions and ideas and even systems that we can try to break down some of the barriers, so to speak, that sometimes can happen naturally from brokerage to brokerage, and have one platform where people can collaborate, share ideas, and be able to help the overall real estate community. So we are excited for that. We do these panels every month. This is always on the second Thursday of the month, 9:30 to 11 a.m. And we always live stream them through Facebook, so you can go back and watch them later if you want. You can also get the actual file if you're somebody who would like to save the file and send it to someone on your team. We can always get that to you as well. If you have registered, you will get that as in an email that comes to you once this panel is over here today. So with all that being said, let me go ahead and introduce you to a couple people. There's a couple of our sponsors that are joining us this morning that really make our entire platform possible. Many of you already know that we don't charge agents anything to be featured in our magazine, which I think makes us a little different than some real estate magazines that I'm aware of. None of our agents pay us to be on the cover or any other spotlight that we do. However, we do have preferred partners that really come to us as recommendations from the agents that we have featured, which means that they have existing relationships already with top 500 producers. And we do the best thing that we can to try to bring great quality vendors that can add value to your businesses. And one of those is none other than Home Team Inspections. Margot Ackerman has been a great partner with her husband, Jeff, really now since I think we started actually here in Tampa Bay. And they support many of our events and things that we do. Margot, if you're muted on your end, just so you know, if you want to say hello and address the topic here this morning. It's great to have you here this morning. Good to see you, Margot.
Good morning. As always, it is a pleasure to support this organization. Home Team loves to support our agents. And we have one thing, and I haven't talked about it in a while, and I'll make it very quick. But in order to help you get your offers selected, what we do is we encourage you, when you're putting your offer in, to call us and schedule a time and a date for your inspection. And if you add this to your offer, a lot of times the realtors say this is one of the major things that has encouraged the realtor to accept our offer, because we normally can give you a date within 3 to 5 days of when you should get the decision from them. And also because we do the inspection in an hour to an hour and a half, it's a little more agreeable to the seller, because they're in and out of their office, so out of their home so quickly. So good morning. Thank you all for being here.
I like that pink, that hot pink business suit you got there, Margot. Looking classy and casual and professional and all at the same time. So good to see you here this morning.
Thank you.
I want to also introduce Jennifer Fernandez, who's driving the car out there. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Lori. Of course. I'm joking. Lori LaCoppola with Milestone Title. They have been a great partner for us. And since, again, over a year and a half now, I believe, with Milestone, sponsoring many of our events, work with us on many of the things that we do with real producers. Lori, as many of you know, is a rock star that does a lot for the community and the real estate game, constantly taking agents out on her yachts and just entertaining left and right. So, Lori, you are muted, I believe, on your end. If you want to say hello and say anything regarding
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, I am driving out to take a team out on the boat today, so I'm super excited. And then we have our big agent roller skating event tonight. So I hope a lot of you are coming. We have about 110 agents that are RSVP'd, and it's our 80s night roller skating party. So we're very excited. I upped my life insurance policy last week. So yes, Milestone Title. I love Milestone Title. I might be a little biased, but I think the one thing that we really do and do very well is earn the business by building the relationship. That to us is the most number one important thing. And, it's easy to go out to lunch with agents and learn about their business and that sort of thing, but we really want to get to know you. We want to know you as the client, you as the agent, you and your personal life, because not everyone needs the same thing, right? Some people may need content photos. Some people may need help on social media. Some people, may need help in, certain type of marketing. So we really want to get to know you to help you build your business, because as you build your business, it builds ours too. So it's really the smart way to do business. We do believe that learners are earners, and, we do a lot of education classes and a lot of fun events too. So, if you haven't tried us, I definitely invite you to give me a call. Let's talk for a few minutes. Head out on the boat, whatever you want to do, have some fun and really get to know each other a little bit so that we can really complement each other in the business. So milestone title, my name is Lori LaCoppola. I'll put my info in the chat, and I hope y'all have an amazing day. And thank you so much for all you do, Don. And we love being a part of Real Producers. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori, and have a great day today out on the boat. Stay safe out there so you can make it to your roller skating thing this evening. And it was probably a smart idea up in the life insurance, because I was about to say the same thing. If I was attending that, I'd have to be very well prepared.
100%.
I'm sure I'd be busting my tail all over that rink, no doubt about it. So have fun. Hopefully there's no rushing to the emergency room late tonight, but if you need help, you can always text me. All right, guys, so we're going to dive into our main topic here today. And I want to, again, just quickly recognize Beta Bay Lending as another one of our partners that sponsors this particular series, this monthly panel of experts series, and also Kazan Construction Group, who is a great roofing partner. And they're another one of our partners for this particular series. And last but certainly not least is Celebration Title, who works with us on multiple markets. And they also sponsor this particular series. And we have a lot of great vendors, a lot of great sponsors. We obviously encourage any of you to check them out at Tampa Bay, realproducers.com, as well as in the actual magazine itself every month through our preferred partner section. So we appreciate all of their support. And without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So we thank all of you. Let me go ahead and introduce our four main panelists for today. And we have some really talented people on the panel today. I'll start with Mr. Mark Middleton. Mark has a 27-year career as a bartender before getting into real estate, which I thought was interesting. Mark got licensed back in 2017, and really not that long ago. What's that, 4 years ago now, and has built a team, a dynamic team, very quickly, starting with KW. He now is with eXp Realty. Mark did over $26 million last year in 2020 with over 80 transactions. One of the things personally that I've always found, impressive about Mark is his passion just for challenging himself mentally and physically, which I think I'm sure has helped him in his real estate game. Mark is a long distance runner, has ran the 46-mile Pinellas Trail Challenge, which it gets me tired just to think about it. But Mark kind of tells you a little bit about the type of character that he has. So Mark, we appreciate you being here. And when I think about mega agents, you're one of the guys that definitely comes to mind as far as what you've built in a short period of time, and excited to hear your thoughts in a few minutes. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Another one of our mega agents, of course, is none other than Troy Walseth. Troy, with his wife, Terry, run the Walseth team. Just from strictly a volume standpoint, some of the numbers that these guys put up are pretty mind-boggling. Troy and his team did over $95 million last year, over 200 transactions last year with your team. I believe that was with a team of 14 agents. Is that right, Troy?
That's pretty close. Yeah, 14 agents, 10 admin.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. You guys have been crushing it. I believe you're already on track to beat that again this year. I think last I noticed that you were already over 75 million or so this year as well. They've have come from North Dakota originally. I think you might be the first person that I've personally ever met, Troy, from North Dakota, I must say. But I hear it's a gorgeous state. I do want to visit. I want to get up there and visit the Dakotas sometime. Got to check out at least Mount Rushmore at some point. But been in Florida since 2012. Has been building his team since. Like I said earlier, him with his wife, Terry, their son, Chase, is also part of the team. And again, when we talk about methods of mega agents, Troy is a great contributor to be able to add to that topic. So thank you for being here today, Troy.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let me go ahead and also introduce you to Heather Stotts. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning.
As you may have noticed recently, Heather is actually our cover feature from our last issue, our July issue. Heather leads the Hustle and Heart team. And Heather, again, similar to Mark, hasn't really even been in real estate that long, but in a very short period of time has built a dynamic organization, and excited to be able to hear some of her principles. I thought a couple things were interesting as I looked into Heather's bio. Heather has, I believe, 13 agents on the team. Is that correct?
Yes.
13 agents on the team and never had an expiring listing. Is that true?
Yeah, we've never had one expire.
That's pretty impressive. It just shows you how aggressive they are with marketing and out there making things happen for their buyers and sellers. Doubled their production last year, and then I believe are on pace to double their production again this year. Is that correct as well?
Yes.
And that's not that coming off a bad year by any means.
No, not at all.
Over $29 million in volume last year with over 90 transactions. I think even though the numbers are pretty impressive, Heather will tell you that she's probably most proud about about her two boys that are 6 and 8 years old. And she loves being able to spend time with them and hanging out with them. So it was a pleasure to get to know you and your team a little bit at our recent happy hour. And thank you for being on this panel today, Heather.
Well, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And then last but certainly not least is Miss Cyndee Haydon. Great to see you as well at the happy hour recently, Cyndee, with your husband, Jack. Cyndee and Jack have been here in the Florida, Tampa Bay area, I believe since the early 90s. Is that right? Like since 1991 or so?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Raised their sons here. A couple things about Cyndee that I thought were interesting. She was probably one of the first agents to really start pioneering the power of video testimonials into her business models. That was back in like 2006 and 7 when that really wasn't very popular yet. And she started doing that in her business, became a leader in social media as well in those earlier times when, again, it was kind of an up and coming technology. A proven leader in the Tampa Bay market. She's consistently been in the top 3% of all realtors in the Tampa Bay market. When I think about Cyndee, and as I got to know her more in our recent interview, Cyndee is just a leader at the end of the day. Like she volunteers for so many different organizations, is involved. She's the president-elect for the Women's Council of Realtors Tampa, the West Coast Area Director for RRC. She serves on the local, the state, and the national board of directors. She's been a champion for homeowners areas for flood insurance, probate, and divorce. In fact, I believe that she actually wrote a couple of books recently. Back in 2017, wrote a book called Secrets to Happy Home Selling. And then just recently in 2020, her second book was titled You Are the Probate Personal Representative, Now What? She also was the president of Pro in 2020. Personally, did over 17 million in volume with 37 transactions last year as well. And so I think we have some pretty talented people on this panel to share some insights. Thank you for being here, Cyndee.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. All right, guys, now that you know some more about our panelists, and you might be on this call and you're not technically a quote unquote panelist, but you have some insights that you'd like to share as we dive into some of these conversations. So I know there's a good amount of you that don't have your video on or are muted right now, but I do encourage anybody to speak up and add value on any of these topics that we dive into. Of course, I'll be presenting some questions. If you are one of the 4 panelists who I'll focus most of my questions towards, if you don't necessarily have anything you want to add on that particular question, don't feel obligated. There's plenty of topics that we can talk about. So we'll just kind of have an open flow and conversation and see where this can all go. So again, the topic at hand is methods of mega agents. And I thought it might make sense for us to start. I know you just heard a little bit of a bio about these 4 panelists, but I've always found that people tend to gain value out of hearing people's stories. And there's a lot of power in just learning kind of the path that someone has taken to quote unquote become a mega agent, however you would define that, right? And so obviously based on what I just went over, the 4 panelists here, would qualify as mega agents. I'm going to allow each one of them just a minute, so we'll keep it short. But just to kind of do a quick little review of your bio, coming from your perspective, and what has the story of your business looked like since you got licensed and became an agent? There are people that are going to be listening to us who are still brand new in real estate, might have just gotten licensed recently and are just trying to get traction, right? Then I know we also have people that have been around for years, but have still never quite broke like that $10 million mark. And there's going to also be some people that have already been wildly successful by what we would look at as standards, but still have certain aspects of their business that they're not satisfied with. And I'm sure can pick up and resonate with certain aspects of your story. So I'm going to start with Cyndee, and then we're going to go to Heather, Troy, and Mark. And just take a minute, give us a brief little overview of your story, your career, and what points you think would be relevant as to how that has grown over the years. So Cyndee, we'll start with you.
Well, I was a bartender for 27 years. Oh no, that's Mark. Oh, sorry. I just feel like I've needed to drink for 27 years. No. So I think part of the interesting thing was my parents moved every 2 years growing up. And so I think a couple things that I learned to connect with people easier, but that my roots are in relationship over places because of that, including my senior year. And so in college, I was a computer science business major because I wanted a career that would make money. And I went to UF. The top marketing person, if I went that route, would be putting cheese on a shelf for Borden. So, that wasn't my dream. So I started working for IBM in college, and I happened to hit it in the 1980s when the personal computer was coming out. So my job was helping people adopt technology at that time. And then I got my job in Lexington, Kentucky as a developer, and quickly found that sitting behind a desk and being a geek, like while I could do it, I just missed the people piece. And so, so we went back into the marketing, consulting, sales side of IBM, and the old days, it used to be called I've Been Moved. So we worked our way back to Tampa in the early 90s, and we loved it. We lived in Indian Shores on the beach and living the dream. And IBM, my husband worked for IBM as well. And they said, hey, the GTE data center is moving to Dallas, so your new desk is going to be there. And so I said, hey, are you going to enjoy visiting? Because I'm not going. So anyway, we actually, at that time, IBM had never laid anyone off, and they were trying to reduce their workforce. And they pay people a lot of money. So in Tampa, the average person sitting at a desk isn't giving that up. So we qualified for an early buyout, and what we got that was super important for us was health insurance. So we got some money. I mean, if I wanted to live in a trailer, maybe in the middle of Florida back then, I could have done it, but that wasn't really the dream. It was just, we knew we could do other things. So we did some consulting for a while, and then I said, I really want to do real estate. And we probably hit it at the perfect time because, well, we hit it in 2005. So now, I'm an optimist, because who gets in real estate when it's tanking? Like, that's a good thing. But I think for anybody on this call, what I do feel is we burned our boats. Both of us had 6-figure incomes back then, and we gave it all up to start this business. Their failure wasn't an option. And so we just dug hard and made it through, the tough times. And we built our business on luxury buyers, smart buyers. We represented them. We didn't have listings. But yet all those buyers today is why our business, again, you said we did 17 million last year. I think we did 17 million through June of this year. So again, it's what has evolved over time is my passion for building community and connection for people who are most often coming here and they don't have anyone, just like me as a kid growing up and having to plug into a new place. So I would say that's been a big part of the motivation and journey for me, is the sense of the people and the community we build. And then my parents grew up in South America. My father's Guatemalan. My mother grew up in Peru and Guatemala. And they always said, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I've always given back, not out of, at Pro, when that started, it was really because if not, you can't complain what you're not involved in. So anyway, that's led me through some other interesting opportunities, and I'm sure we'll talk about today, but that's kind of the journey. So it wasn't a plan, but it was a passion. So I would say that also helps success, is do what you love or learn how to love it.
Thanks, Cyndee. I think it's powerful to know that some people get into real estate and they still try to keep another career or another business. And it's that burning the boats mentality that I think can separate people right away versus the person who never really becomes a mega agent, right? Because they don't have that, they're kind of tipping the toe in the water. So that speaks to the level of commitment you guys had. Heather, you want to go next?
Yeah, I agree with Cyndee. You definitely have to have a passion for real estate because it's hard sometimes. I came from a customer service background. I worked for a wholesale beauty supply for 8 years and managed stores. And we actually moved here in 2015. And at the time, I had decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And I tried that for a year, and that was just not my jam. I am not a stay-at-home with kids kind of mom at all. And previously we had sold some houses in California, and there just wasn't that customer service at all with real estate. And that's kind of what got me into it when I decided, you know, what did I want to do when I grow up, right after hanging out with the kids. And that's really how I've built my business. It took me a little while to get started, probably about 4 or 5 months before I sold my first piece of real estate. And that was actually to my mother-in-law, who had followed us from Southern California. And after that, it was just all downhill. I used Facebook a lot to get my business. Back then it was much easier because people were basically raising their hands for houses on all the groups and stuff like that. But I sold a lot of houses my first year, and I have used the customer service aspect to build the entire business. Like, we do pop buys, we do customer appreciation parties, and most of our business, I'd say probably 80% now, is referral based. And that's just the best thing for the team here. But yeah, I love real estate. I wish that I would have started much sooner. For me, it just came easy. So I'm excited to be here and share more stories.
Looking forward to it. Looks like you got a little party celebration right behind you right there. Is that?
Yeah, that's it was a basket for pride. We're trying to get the person who won to call us back to come get her swag, but see how that works out.
Always good to have swag hanging around the office.
That's right.
All right, Troy, you wanna go next?
Sure. So I worked at an electronics store way back in the early 90s, and I was total commission. And they went to a salary base and offered me a management position at about half of what I was making on commission. And I said, no, thanks, I'm going to go sell cars. And so I literally left the company, and my wife bought me a real estate course for Christmas. And I said, yeah, I don't know anything about houses. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sell cars. That's what I like. And she said, well, you should just humor me and try it. Just take the class. And so that's what I did, and I love it. So I started at a company in 1993 by myself. I started building a team in 96 without even, I mean, there were no teams then. I just hired an assistant and hired a buyer's agent before that was even a thing, to help me with open houses and things like that when I got busy. And of course, I did it all wrong then, but fast forward, I had a 19-year career in Fargo, North Dakota as a real estate agent. And at the end of my career there, I literally had to do nothing but pick up my phone. It was almost embarrassing, and run around and list what was high-end houses in Fargo at the time. And it seemed like it got colder and colder every year there. So we researched 9 states and 27 cities and ended up right in Tampa Bay. Decided we're going to go, as soon as my daughter graduates, we're going to go where there's heat and water, and close to a big city, and that was part of our criteria. So we started visiting all these cities, ended up in Tampa Bay, and we didn't know a soul here, not one person. So kind of back to the basics, started doing open houses, and built my business from the ground up right here in in Gulf Beaches area. So, yeah.
A little bit different than Fargo, North Dakota, huh, my man?
Wow. Yeah, a lot different. So.
I'm sure you feel like you guys made the right decision.
Absolutely. We love it here. Love real estate and love it in this area. So
I could relate. I'm from Connecticut. So, those of us who came from cold weather, we realize how good we have it once we live down here.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Troy. Let's go to Mark, and then we'll dive into a couple of our specific questions here regarding the methods of mega agents. So, Mark, why don't you give us a little snapshot of your pathway?
I think that if I'm ever going to write a book, it's going to be called Life Behind Bars, because I spent more than 20 years standing behind a bar. and everything that I believe that everything that happens in our life happens intentionally with purpose. And so, you had mentioned earlier, I'm a distance runner, and I started doing that more and more after 2012. And that kind of got me ready for what was coming next, which was real estate. And I was flying home from a national park back in the beginning of 2017 and just did not want to go back to work. It was the first time in all those years that I was just done. I had looked around, and everybody that I was working with was old enough to be my kid. And my back hurt terribly at the end of every day, bending over a ice well to get ice to fill drink glasses. And it just wasn't what I wanted to do. And I had shared with a friend of mine at dinner that something that Jody Avery had done. She was holding up an award on Facebook, and I had calculated based on that volume that she had done, how much did she make that month? And I shared that at dinner with a friend of mine, and he said, well, you could do that. Absolutely. Like what you have done in your running and everything that I have seen you do when you decide to do something, you do it, which is like distance running, right? It doesn't matter if you hurt yourself during the run or something's uncomfortable, you just keep going until it's over. And so I parlayed that into real estate, and because I had that network back in 2006 or 7, I was on MySpace creating events to have people come to my bar at night so I could make good money. And I turned all of that into I parlayed that into real estate. So instead of coming to see me at the bar and we're doing this event, this weekend, hey, I'm a real estate agent and use me. And it took a little while to get going. But I say a little while, like 3 or 4 months before people started using me as their agent. And that worked out. And I love what some people have said, like you have to have a passion for real estate. I like houses. We all live in one or something, right? And so, but I never really had a passion for real estate. I thought that I would be good if I sold. It wouldn't matter if I was selling toilet seats or houses. But what I turned my bartending career into a game every day, to where I didn't know if I was going to make $250 one night or 700. So I turned it into a game, and that kept me engaged for 27 years. And I do that with real estate too. I turned it into a game, and I'm very competitive, which comes from running as well. And it was very important to me a couple of years ago to get in the top 100 of the MLS at Pro. And when I did that, now I want to be number one. And if I get to be number one, or when I get to be number one, then I'll look on the national level and see how can I accomplish that. So I'm turning this into a game, which keeps me engaged, and it is a lot of fun. I like it enough that I would do it for free. So.
Real estate's a great business for competitive people, that's for sure. I've always found that competition, when used properly, can be a great tool. And it's funny how you hear different people's motivations a lot of times on these panels as to like what drives them. And so people can resonate with different things as to what's going to drive them. But I think it's important for anybody to identify that something that is going to be that driving factor, whether that's just the people or the brand. And we'll touch on more of that here today, or maybe it's just the competition side, as Mark just said. But a common question that I hear a lot, and that I've talked with a lot of people about, is the question about should I stay as an individual agent and become a quote unquote mega agent, just being individual volume, drive my business individually, or go down that path of wanting to build a team? And of course, the answer is it depends obviously on the individual. I would say you guys would all probably agree with that. Some people are much better suited as an individual rock star and just try to build their business individually. And other people get fueled by a team, right? And building a team culture. So many of you have done that process, have started building a team, big teams, and but not all of you have. And so the question I'd like to hear your opinions on are just why did you go down the path of building a team? What was that resonated with you? And what have you learned in that process over the years? Are there things that you would have done differently that you've learned about that team building process for anybody out there who is, wanting to be a quote unquote mega agent, but they want to do it with a team volume and a team atmosphere. And that's how they want to position themselves as a mega agent. So I'll start this time with you, Mark, since you went last time, and then you guys can chime in. I know Troy and Heather have spent a lot of energy on building a team, so I'd love to hear your opinions. And then Cyndee, if you want to share even like why you really did not go necessarily down the path of team building, and I think it'd be great to hear different perspectives. So Mark, why don't you go first?
Building a team was really personal to me because I was at a great brokerage. Like KW is supposed to be a great, and it is a really great training company. And I was sitting in these training rooms and trying to learn everything I could. And after 3 weeks, I was still looking for somebody to come down the hallway and hand me my business card so I could go out and get customers. And I had come from the restaurant business, where if you're a hostess or a waiter or a bartender or a manager, they take you by the shoulder and they lead you around and they say, this is how you do your job. And they did not do that there. And here I'm looking for my business cards. And I went to the general manager and said, hey, what about this? And it just wasn't explained really well. And I found that real estate is an industry where you just have to figure it out. And I felt like, man, I can't let all these people that are getting out of real estate school that feel like, and I talk to them all the time now, they feel like I just got $100,000 a year job as soon as Bob Hogue is over with. And then they don't know where to go or what to do or how to get any traction. So I wanted to be able to help people. And so that's exactly what I'm doing with it.
Troy, you want to add some thoughts?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I wish I had a really cool story about I wanted to build a team. It's always been my goal, but it hadn't. And so when we moved to Florida, like I said, I had a team up there. We kind of shut the doors on it and walked away. It became a referral business. But when we came here, my wife and I had a discussion on the way here that said, listen, I'm probably just going to do a few transactions and we're going to live a really simple life, little house, all cash, paid for, no stress. And turns out like in 7 months changed because that's not in my DNA. So I got so busy in about a 7-month period of being in Florida that I needed administrative help. And so I hired, based on a need rather than a desire to build a team, I hired an administrative assistant that literally took all the stuff off my plate that I was terrible at, which was most of it other than selling homes and dealing with people. So I got fast forward down the road, maybe 4 months. I got busy listing properties and decided that I needed to hire a buyer's agent. So I read the KW book, the Red Book, and decided that I better do this right, and not how I did it in Fargo. But and so I kind of followed a little bit of a path. And of course, you do things your own way as well. But I started building it based on me getting busy and needing help, not because I had a desire. And it turned out I really needed some help in building this, and that's when I switched companies to KW and got a lot of team building help and classes and leverage and things like that, found people for the team. And then I decided, let's build this big. And so, yeah, I think it's just, it happened a little bit on accident for me, but now it's, there's a good purpose to it. So different purpose than how we started, but still a purpose. So.
Yeah, no doubt. So people get there in different ways and for different reasons.
Yeah.
I just heard two examples of that between Mark and Troy. Heather, how about you?
Mine is kind of a combination of both stories. I also had agents that didn't really know what to do when they got out of school. And that's kind of how I met Sina, who is now helping me do coaching with our team. I was at Century 21 at the time, and she was kind of hanging out, didn't know what to do, and nobody was really talking to her, telling her what was going on. And so I kind of took her under my wing. And at that time was also listing a lot of properties and needed someone to help with open houses and things like that. And that's how she got started. And then we eventually moved to Keller Williams, and I was helping out with classes and stuff, and agents just kind of kept flocking to me. I still don't really know why, but people say that's my personality. So they kind of were looking for help too. And I didn't want anybody to fail. So I brought on a few agents, and again, like Troy, probably did a bunch of that the wrong way. But, you know, and I still have some of those agents today. I've only had a couple ever leave us. But yeah, I have a passion for making sure that agents know what they're doing and producing very quickly. So we usually can get somebody producing in 30 to 45 days. Yeah, I wouldn't do it without a team. I'm a team player and definitely could not do it by myself.
Yeah, that fascinating. Again, it sounded like Mark kind of got into the business with the mentality of wanting a team from the beginning, right? Yeah. And you hear a little bit of differences with that. You know, Troy's story came out of necessity and out of need and being busier than he probably expected to be when he first got things flowing. And Heather just has such a great personality that people just kept flocking to her all the time. Yes. So, I mean,
that's what they say.
She didn't know how to say no to people. So
that's exactly what it is. Oh, sure. Yeah. Come join my team. Yeah. Troy will tell you. That's pretty much how I do it, but whatever.
Hey, we all did it that way to begin. I mean, like,
yeah, hey, sure. Come on. Can you sell a house? Oh, okay. Come on. Yeah.
We'll do it together. It's more fun together.
Exactly. It is.
Yeah.
Cyndee, what was your perspective? Because I know that you have had, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've had a team before, but your main focus has really been on building your individual business. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so we kind of did it backwards in a way. Because we got in when the internet was still pretty fresh, and with our technology background, we built, through blogging, video, Google, investing in systems like Tiger Leads, we had more opportunities than we could handle. And so at the time, we had 17 referral agents working with us based on offloading those opportunities. And what I learned is two things. One is for Jack and my level of success. And one of the things, I haven't worked in a company like Keller Williams or some of the hierarchical, who's on top, whatever. But I judge my success on like what's at the bank of Haydon and profit. And it's a challenge to kind of stay with that, right? Because it's easy to get sucked into how many transactions, this, that, and the other. For me, I mean, I'm very competitive, as Mark knows too, but I have to keep myself in check as to what is the outcome. So we had 17 agents, and what I learned, and we probably approached it, I mean, looking back, we approached it wrong because we wanted for people more than they wanted for themselves. What I learned was I had a vision that every agent can make 6 figures. And I was like, hey, we can do that. What I found is the average person working in real estate, around $50,000, they get comfortable and they don't want to show up and hustle. They don't want to show up and do the work, And so I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the schmuck doing 2 jobs, generating all the business and closing, and I'm bringing in 90% of the profit. There's something wrong with this, right? And so there's a lot of lessons learned that probably we didn't do correctly, but fundamentally what we learned was that one, we found our niche and we focused on that. And it was, again, it's more concierge, higher touch. I do have, my husband's my partner, so there's 2 of us, and we hired an amazing transaction coordinator and admin. So again, when I look at a lot of people and behind the covers, even in some of the real trends, they take home less money. And so again, for me, I didn't need a plaque as much as, again, we're looking at this stage of our life, like Troy, how do we live a good life, right? And how do I do, what I like? So that was, and again, I've taken the KW training on team building, et cetera. I think the hardest challenge, honestly, is finding someone with the same like work ethic and care, because we have a reputation with our clients. We always do the right thing. They know we're going to deliver. And again, I just probably for myself got a little burned by, we literally had one agent that would say, I'm going to Europe for 3 months and come back and say, I don't have any business. I'm like, gee, not only do you not have any business, but you just dumped down the drain all the work I had done setting you up. Like, it wasn't like, I mean, it's just so selfish, right? So I just think in real estate, that's the challenge, is finding the right people. It sounds like some of these people have found better people or have a better threshold. I don't, because every minute I pour into somebody else, it means I'm taking it away from clients. And, again, for someone who this year, like I said, I think we have 25 million under contract, I'm living a good life, and I love what I'm doing. And so my goal is not to wake up every day to try to motivate someone to do the job or show up. And so I think if you can find people, and I don't think you teach people culture. I mean, KW has that right? You hire for culture and then you train whatever. So my husband was a large site manager at IBM. He has a lot of experience, and so again, he's kind of like, it works, but it's a whole different kind of philosophy. So that's where we are today. I wouldn't say never. I actually have built some partnerships to collaborate with people. So when I take a vacation, I have another broker that can back me up and that kind of stuff, because you still need time away and stuff. But we're still navigating that journey. And quite honestly, like I said, what I learned is I got to figure out how to be a better leader and not want as much for people as I see the potential, right? Like emotionally, I want more for people than I see them wanting themselves. And that just drained me more than actually them not producing. So that's my pitiful story, but that's where we are.
I can relate to that in many ways. It's very frustrating to want goals for your people more than they want them for themselves. I've experienced that too. I think anyone who's operated with a team can relate to that. And I think it's neat that we have different perspectives, that people can learn from, because, if overall the theme today is methods of mega agents, and we're going to dive into some strategies here too. But there's different definitions of what makes somebody a mega agent, right? Your definition of that might be some team leader that operates a big team, and you love the energy of that, the dynamic of that, that's your vision of what it looks like to thrive in the real estate game. And or you're somebody who's like, hey, my vision is bottom line profit. I think Cyndee mentioned that a couple times, which I think makes a lot of sense, makes a lot of business sense. And understanding that sometimes running a lean and mean organization is going to be the most profitable way to go, right? Especially when it comes to the amount of time that it takes for you to do that element of the business. So there's different ways as how we go about it. But again, a big consistent trait, I guess, that I would say that I've seen in mega agents, at least the ones that I've interviewed and met, is how they respond to challenges and adversity and just things that don't go as planned, right, during the course of operating the business. And so I thought it would be a good topic to at least get your insights on, what are some of the biggest challenges that you have experienced in your journey, even if you've only been at this for a few years so far? How are some things what are some lessons that you've taken away from that? And any ways that you think that you've specifically responded to some of those challenges that would be very useful for someone else who might go through that challenge, or possibly is already going through that challenge, and wants to be a mega agent. They want to learn the right ways to be able to overcome those types of challenges. So we can kind of go in any order we want here. Anybody want to volunteer to go first? All right, Troy's brave, man. We'll let Troy go first, and we'll hop around a little bit. I might call on it. And by the way, if you're not one of the quote unquote 4 panelists, it does not mean that you can't contribute towards any of these topics. So there is an icon. If you click on the little reactions button at the bottom of Zoom, you can raise your hand if you want to chime in and say some things. We'd love to have as much value add there as possible. So that would be an easy way for me to know that you want to chime in a little bit. Troy, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think, part of this goes back to what Cyndee was saying. I think she nailed it there with it's hard to find people that love your business as much as you do and care about your business as much as you do and do things the way you want them to do things. And so it's, and again, if somebody comes to me and tells me that they have a goal to hit, this is what I want to do this year, and I want it for them more than they do, that doesn't work. So like a lot of it is you so have to hire the right people, and that's been super challenging. I think if you talk to any team, any person that runs a team or any team owner, they're going to tell you hiring the right people is the most important and the hardest thing you can do in your business. And we are all, as real estate agents, if you're a good agent, you're probably a control freak. And so to be able to let go and trust somebody to take over one portion of your business that you think you're doing so well, but you hate doing, that's the hardest part. Like you've got to get the people in that fit that position, that fit that seat on the bus perfectly. And you've got to just get them in that spot and let them go. And they'll run your business to a higher level than you can if you set them free and let them run with it. And for me, that's been the hardest challenge. Now I can't let go fast enough. It's just like, I get that right person that I love and trust on my team, and I'm like, yep, you get all of it. It's all yours. I don't even want to look at it, but we have to have steps and bounds built into to do checkups on them, but not micromanage. So there's a fine line there too. And Heather had talked about just hiring anybody. I no longer allow myself to hire because that's what I did. So the only person that can hire for our teams, either Lockhart Walseth or Walseth team, is Terry. That's what she's good at. She hired 117 people for a college and made no mistakes, literally. So I'm not saying we don't make mistakes now, we do, but she's better at that process than I am, because I love everybody and I think I can fix them. And I'm like, hey, you're kind of terrible at this. You should join us and we'll fix you, And that's not the way you hire. So you got to get the people involved that you trust that can do that job better than you and set them free. And that's the hardest thing to learn. But once I learned that, things become so much easier.
That's a great point. We need to get your wife on here then, Troy. I think we got to pick the brain a little bit. That's impressive. 117 hires with no mistakes. I wish I had that track record.
So I can share, mine are like kind of completely different, but other people might relate. I was thinking about it, and there are kind of three different challenges along the way. The first one, which Mark kind of spoke to, is, okay, you got a real estate license. Now, how do you find business? Right. And so it's so funny because that's really the difference between success and failure. Right. If you've got clients, it's how do you find them? So in the beginning, we did blogging and video and those kind of things, and over time build it to referral. But what I learned from that challenge was, and I would say this for anybody, if you think about it, if you're not happy where you are, is I learned, and blogging really reinforced it, was whatever message you're putting out to the universe, that's what you're going to get back. And so I remember blogging early, to give you an example, and I wrote an article about how to buy. People kept asking me, can I buy something on Clearwater Beach for under 200,000? So I'm like, I'm gonna write an article. And there was like 2 properties. So what I got were people with dreams and no money. And I'm like, oh man, like skip that, right? And so I've learned that talk about and be what you want. And so if I could give, that's been a great lesson for me, that even times I get tempted, like right now, my heart bleeds for first-time home buyers, and I'm like, zip that mouth, like, no, because you're going to attract people that it's really hard to help, and so I help some of my clients' kids, but do I want more of that right now in this marketplace? No, I don't. So the other was finding ideal clients, and I think that what that came was with confidence, but it was saying no to people that aren't a good fit. And why that mattered was because and I call it 5-star client because I've been in buyer referral only my whole career. But the answer is, when I'm dealing with someone that's not a 5-star client, the odds of them becoming a raving fan are so much lower. And the other thing I've learned when I define an ideal client for me is I've learned that I like people that take personal responsibility. So victims and do-it-yourselfers, I let them, I don't even hold them. I'm like, hey, and just let them go into the universe to somebody else, because because everything's I mean, again, and because of referral ability, you know, I work to make people happy, but some people are not going to be happy. And some people sabotage your own transaction. And so I just send them over to Mark or Troy or Heather, and then they got those numbers and they're excited. So, but you know, that was important to learn. And the third one was, I'm not super systems oriented. So that's a challenge. My husband is, he is like, if he says he's working out at the gym at 9:30 and someone wants to write a $5 million contract, he's like, I'll be back at 10. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I have to protect myself from my own weaknesses. And so what I found was time for serving and building relationships. I was better if I committed times. So for instance, I committed every Sunday for the last 11 years to host for my clients a meetup and a dinner. And I have a Broadway Straz group that we go to the shows. And once a month, I have the Soul Sisters, which are my clients at my house. And so that just protects me on my calendar to show up and be available for that connection, because we all know how busy we stay. And so those are some things I learned for myself on the journey that might help some other people.
A ton of great nuggets there. We'll have some of you guys chime in. I wrote down, there was a lot there. I wrote down two main things, which is understanding and identifying who your ideal client is. I think a lot of agents struggle with that, from just what I've been, you know, talking to people about, and really getting clarity on who is that ideal agent, that ideal client, I should say, that I want to be attracting. I've heard people doing exercises to really kind of, not like physical exercises, but like written exercises where you do a little bit of a brainstorming session on coming down with those specific qualities that you want in a ideal client. And then it makes sense because all of your marketing, which we're going to talk about next, becomes aligned to attract that particular client. Once I can identify who the heck it is. And comparing that to where a lot of new people just kind of take business wherever they can get it because they're so desperate just to find a listing or find a client. And maybe that's what needs to happen for some people. But the faster that you can get real clarity on your ideal client and who you want to build relationships with, I think everything else falls into place then. You know, once you know who that is. And then as Cyndee said, it allows you to then time block, have specific events. I'm sure Cyndee loves going to the Straz shows herself. So why not go with some friends and clients, right? Do some things that are fun that she's able to build those relationships with. So some really cool stuff there. Mark, Heather, do you guys want to add anything else?
I don't. Everything that Troy said and Cyndee said is absolutely correct in my mind. And I am no longer also allowed to hire people. That's been taken away from me. I got fired from that job. So, because I too will be like, oh, you look sad. Come on, let's go. I'll fix you. And it's horrible. So yes, they've taken that away from me, but that's okay because we haven't had a bad hire since that's happened. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, it's, boy, there's a lot. This is a lot of good nuggets. I'm taking away a lot too here.
Good.
Yeah.
Any other challenges that you can think of, Mark? Or
yeah, you know, I think that there's just so much noise out there in the world, especially if you're a new agent. And I read in the news and hear all the criticisms of, you know, is your coach only telling you to call FSBOs and knock on expired listings doors, right? And, you know, everybody's looking for this creativity. What I have found is, especially new agents, they're just looking for the easy button. And I don't know why we've ever gotten away from the basics of the job description of a realtor. And it can be broken down. I heard this, I probably right when I started, the 5 points of a realtor's job description: lead generation, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and script and role play. And if you're doing those things, then it automatically time blocks your day and it helps you set your own self up for success. And instead, we're looking at how to create I think we should make videos, right? Cyndee's amazing at that. But we're worried about making videos and what the perfect Facebook post looks like instead of focusing on what we should be doing each day. And I think when there's that much noise out there in the world, it takes us away from what we need to be really doing.
Can you repeat those 5 things again, Mark? I think we'll put it in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Lead generation, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and script and role play.
Negotiate contracts, scripts, and role play. I love it. They're in the chat there as well, but I think simplifying the business is always an important step especially for new people, but really for anybody to get back to the basics and learn how to grow things.
And I think setting a realistic expectation. I love what Mark said, and I would love the other people, but if I had it, I mean, every new agent I meet, they think they're worth $100,000 and not working nights and weekends. And I'm like, well, when you find that job, you tell me, because I still work nights and weekends. Cause like Troy, I work at the beach, people fly in, but I'm like, how arrogant to not even respect the work that goes into this profession, in my opinion. And so I have to say to people, the average realtor in Florida with 10 years experience makes $40,000 before they pay their broker. Like, again, it's mega in this term means people that are willing to do the work, right? I mean, really, a lot of times that's the success. Are you doing the work, right? And people somehow, Mark said the easy button. There's no easy, I don't know. I don't know that there's an easy button. It means you can enjoy it when you're working, but I don't see like you just boop, like here's your check, boop.
Don't you wish?
And Cyndee, I had a guy on my team a few months back, 50-year-old man, literally with tears rolling down his face because he's not hitting any of his goals. And the first question is, what are you doing for lead generation? And it could look like 150 different things. It doesn't have to be calling BizBos. He doesn't lead generate. He's waiting for it he's going to sit on the couch and wait for it to fall through the ceiling of his house. And it's not going to happen. So, and they're that upset about it. I mean, people just don't know what to do next, but it's right there.
It's people that have had jobs and they don't understand you're an entrepreneur and you run a business, right? And so it's like, there's no W-2, there's no paycheck coming. We, like Troy said, for those of us that get excited, we're like, I'm better than the paycheck, right? Like, let me get leverage on our work, right? And so versus here's what you're going to make. Like IBM has a commission, but it was, it wasn't the opportunity that this is. Yeah, it is mindset.
If you don't treat this like a business, you're going to go broke. And that's the biggest thing that agents need to learn. If you opened a coffee shop, you're not going to be open from, noon to 3, 2 days a week, and then take Saturday off. You're going to be open at certain hours. And I mean, that's the hardest part for them. They need to get their butts in here. And the coolest thing about real estate is that you have so much freedom. And the most terrible thing about real estate is you have so much freedom. Nobody's going to tell you, you need to be in here at 8 a.m. every single morning doing this, or you're fired. That's just not the way agents are. It's not the way that this works. And it's what most of them need. They need a whole shake them by the collar and say, if you don't get your butt in gear and get in here and do the right activities, you're going to go broke. Mm-hmm. So.
And let me just follow up one thing, Don, and tell me you guys don't, and again, because remember, I obviously can't hire people or know how to pick them, but I have clients and friends that get a real estate license. They're like, I want to work with you, which is always a bad sign. And then they say they have a full-time job. And I go, wait, let me get this right. You want to start something and go to work and throw it over the wall to me. Like, I don't need more of that in my life. I need people taking stuff off my plate, not like giving me half a job back halfway done. And I'm like, again, the mindset of people, they're like, it should be a good thing for you. I go, how do you figure? Like,
way more work.
Yeah.
Well, people just think it's easy. I get my real estate license. I open up a couple doors. I'm going to get a fat paycheck and then I'm going to go on vacation. And you're like, yeah, if only. It was easy.
If they don't do what Cyndee said, burn the boats and jump in, if they have a backup plan, they're not going to make it, period. Exactly. Well, I can always go back to this if this doesn't work. That's a big telltale sign that you're not going to be hired for my team. Yeah, so I want them to say, I don't have an option. I will make this work and I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah. I tell people even today that I wake up every day unemployed and I hope that I believe that every day. I wish someone had told me about insurance agents when I got started, because I'm like, damn it, there's an annuity there. Like, but we wake up every day and we got to figure out like who we can help. And the other biggest thing that I find is a mindset issue, Don, is I've paid coaches all my career. I paid people, $5,000, $10,000 to make me go faster, stronger, and appreciate learning. And the biggest slap in the face is when someone doesn't, they don't want to invest in themselves, or they just think you're going to tell them and take time out. And it's just, again, I find that that's a biggest gap, is people somehow think, and again, there's companies that do it, but I think most people that are successful, and even here, the path that people have gone on, have been in places where either the brokerage is trained or they've paid to train. Like Troy said, take the how to hire, I forget what it's called. I've taken it too, but that's a big gap too. Like it's invest in learning the business, learning what you need to know, learning whether it's scripts or how to, do these things. And I just see people not understanding that. Do you guys see the same?
Yeah.
For sure. And Cyndee, you've shared with me a couple of great books. I think one, like when you're talking with an agent, maybe that wants to become a part of your team, ask them what they're reading. That'll tell you how much they're pouring into themselves right there.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good tip.
Our next topic is going to be about best practices, which we've started to dive into a little bit already. Some of it has been flushed out, and I think we want to go deeper into this particular idea of best practices to become a mega agent, whether that would be marketing philosophies, which I think, go back to your points earlier, Mark, about, starting with lead generation, right? Lead generation and lead follow-up. So, what are some of the best practices that you guys teach your people, that you've implemented over the years, that you've seen others implement, that you're excited to implement, regarding lead generation and how that culturally has become just the way things happen in your business now? Beyond that, lead follow-up, Mark mentioned as well. So are there automated systems that you guys have facilitated and created over the years to help with that follow-up? Because we all know that if we're relying on our memory, that's probably not a good follow-up system. What are some of your best practices there? So let's dive in, if we can, to some of these particular best practice strategies. We could start with marketing, since that's the top of the 5 steps that Mark brought out. What are some of the best philosophies? And the other part of that, to me, in my opinion, is like, has that changed as well over time? Like, was it you were focused on this at one point, and now the focus is really this? I think Heather mentioned that 80% of her business comes from referrals. I'm sure all of you guys get a lot of good referrals and have built your business through that, but that probably wasn't the way that things initially started from the get-go. So there were some steps in there that got you to that phase, right? Of referral generation. So what are some of those best practices that you think have helped you develop the reputation of being a mega agent?
Yeah, I would like to, may I share with what my first experience was? Well, I mentioned Facebook kind of got me going really quick, but it was also augmented with knocking on people's doors that were FSBOs back in 2017. And so it's beginning relationships and then staying in relationship. And I don't believe in a philosophy of just being transactional. It's creating something that's going to last for a long time. And I knocked on this one FSBO's door in Dunedin probably more than 20 times. Every other day I would go back and see how things were going, until one Friday night I was walking to go get dinner in Dunedin here. And the guy called me and said, "Hey, I need you to list my house tonight." I'm like, 7 o'clock on a Friday night. He goes, "Well, can I do it tomorrow?" I just had my 14th closing with that one man. And so I think the point of the story is, if you start relationships and then stay in relationship with people and then continue every single day to continue to build new ones and put more people in, you build a machine that it wouldn't matter if you're 85 years old, you can still make a few $100,000 a year.
I love that.
I love in our business, the big change, we started transactionally. And again, it really was playing to my husband's strength. So Craig Proctor was someone that caught his eye, and it was systems, and it was, bank owned homes. And we spent the first 5 years. And of course, that wasn't a bad thinking in the short sale downfall of those 5 years. Right. But again, I looked at him one day and I said, if this is our life, I'll go back to, computer sales, consulting, whatever, because transactional people didn't play to my strength. So we all know agents and mega agents that are really good transactionally. So there, like you said, there's lots of ways to do it. But for us, when really we switched over and again, kind of burned the boats again and said, I'm all in on by referral only and building relationships for long-term. I think the biggest thing that people don't realize is, so on the transactional side, from when we built internet leads and blogging and stuff, most people don't realize there's an 18-month to 3-year conversion. So we played the long game and we turned a lot of those into relationships, because when you're that patient that long, people build trust. So a lot of our clients, started back that way. But then when it comes to the other side, I think where people miss the boat is, it's kind of like the advertising adage, whatever you do right now, like the first time, people think it's salesy, it's marketing, it's a gimmick, right? So it's when they see you show up, at least for me, when they've seen me show up and give back for 10 years, they're like, you really care. And I think that's kind of in that process. Some of that's, like Mark said, the person knows you keep coming back. Like it wasn't just flash in the pan. So I'm gonna give you a simple example that people can do, just silly things. I love it when we have a hurricane, because I will video text or text all my clients. I'll be like, hey, how are you doing? If you need anything, let me know. Afterwards, I'll drive a neighborhood. Here's what it looks like. And people are like, oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many simple little things that build that connection. It's not all like parties and events, but it's how we show up and do we care. And another big part, and Mark's, been into this too, is I believe as realtors, and I believe, I pitched this to NAR. I said, no new realtor is going to out realtor any of us on this panel. I mean, you don't have the knowledge. So if you go up against business, and when I go up against business, you can't beat me on business. I don't believe in most cases, unless they're your family, so that's not what I'm talking about. But if you invest in understanding issues that are facing the community, like how many of you know that all Pinellas County flood maps are changing on August 24th? And so people that needed insurance are going to have a bigger expense. Beach people are having a less expense. So being that person that's giving back to your community is a huge way to bring value. And so I think that again, the problem with a lot of people's marketing is they think it's a meme on Facebook, and somehow that's going to help you beat other agents and people on Zillow and whatever. In the absence of value, price wins, and we're all fighting for market share and value and getting paid what we think we're worth. But that's kind of one of those things that, one, I think people don't know. If it's a cold lead, however you get it, it's 18 months to 3 years. And then there's a certain segment that just bluebirds, but reality is nurturing. Most of you probably agree could take that long from just cold lead. And then warm is how you kind of make it more profitable and quicker. But that comes from trust, right? And so there's a book called The Speed of Trust. Stephen Covey Jr. wrote it. And he said, 2 things. You need for people to trust you, they need to know your character and your competency. And however you can get to that, business will get done when they believe those 2 things. So the faster you can do that, the faster you can do business. So you got to think about, how do you show up with character and competency? And is your message you're delivering conveying those 2 things so people will trust you with one of their biggest assets?
That's gold. Honestly, it's marketing. People think that they can market their way out of a bad situation. They think that they can market their team to huge production, and it's an enhancement. It's a way to touch and stay in contact with your past clients, sphere of influence, outside areas, get your name somewhat known, but it's an enhancement at best on your business. The marketing aspect is. The biggest thing is to grow your business, to get into production, to fix a problem, is to get a new lead. There's not one issue really that a new lead can't fix in real estate, or a couple new leads can't fix, but the fastest way to get to them is phone calls, meeting people, talking to people, and marketing can enhance that, but I don't think it's going to be the a bunch of Facebook ads aren't going to jumpstart your business immediately. I think it's what you're doing personally, getting out there, getting out of your comfort zone, talking to people, meeting people. That's what's going to jumpstart you.
A lot of great stuff. I think this common theme of transactional versus relationship focus, those are two different approaches. And I think, agents have made both work. We all know that. I would say more common for the people that I get a chance to interview in the top 500 is this relationship focus is a pretty intense focus, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to build relationships, whether that's taking people to Straz, Broadway shows on a weekly basis, or knocking on people's doors and just being there in person and finally grabbing lunch with somebody, or whatever it is. But that's kind of what real estate's all about, right? At the end of the day is are you trusted, like Cyndee said, as, and obviously being competent is a part of that too, but trust doesn't come without some element of relationship development taking place. And that's a big part of it. I thought Cyndee mentioned the idea of positioning yourself somehow as an expert. I think there's a lot of creative ways to do that would add value to anybody's business. But most of the mega agents that I've had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing have done that in some way, whether that's through a blog, through their social media video thing, where now they've had enough followers that trust their opinion on real estate, right? Like Cyndee said, it's maybe doing some research on some law changes, policy changes. I personally have been looking into trying to get involved in like the short-term rental business and trying to get involved there. And there are certain agents that I've already talked to that do a good job of positioning themselves as an expert on short-term rentals, right? And the HOAs, Cyndee's one of them, right? So there's an element of what is it that you want to position yourself as an expert on? And that goes back to, I think it was, Mark's point earlier about, or somebody's point about, knowing who your ideal client is, because that's where how you want to position yourself in that way. Any other thoughts on just best practices, whether that's through lead generation or even lead follow-up that have been really helpful or have created a breakthrough at all in your business over the years?
I think you can really use video in short snippets, like video text that can be the same. I mean, it's almost as good as being there. I mean, so again, the problem with realtors and all of us is that same easy button where people overdo it, right? So you can't do, it's like, oh, I'm not going to answer my phone. So, everything's like whatever. But I think there's this way to kind of easily in our day build connection. And then I also think that, I think this applies in lead conversion and lead gen, but it also applies in our peers is, being trustworthy, being honest, doing the right thing. You build a reputation with clients, but even more importantly with your peers. In this market, I feel like we've had an opportunity to win more multiple offers. I know I've worked with Chase from Troy's team, and like when you have that mutual respect, people are looking at who's going to do what they say, and it really matters. I mean, we had an opportunity on a $2.5 million home this week, and I could have gotten my client to say what the seller wanted them to say, and I knew the agent well, and the seller's like, they wanted $100,000 to go non-refundable, and he's like, and I'm like, I'm not going to pressure him, and I told him in the morning he woke up and he goes, I screwed up, and I'm like, but here's the deal. If I pressure you, 1, you don't trust me. 2, you're going to get out in an inspection period. And 3, that agent's going to be like, I gave up a good deal because you didn't deliver and you didn't say what you would. Now we're in a backup position. And if we get it, everybody knows. He's like, when I said to the agent, I go, I could have gotten him to sign it, but I didn't believe he was going to stick. And I didn't want to do that to you. And so he's like, that's why you're a dying breed. And I'm not sure I'm a dying breed, but I think that's where all of us the people, I don't know Heather that well, but I know Troy's reputation. I know Mark's reputation, and that, you live and die by your reputation. And so no transaction is worth, for me, taking a shortcut on doing the right thing, because it'll come back 10 times, especially when you do it to a peer, in my opinion.
I don't think agents realize that overall, how important it is to have a relationship with the other side, with the other agents, to treat them respectfully, because the tables are going to turn at some point. I'm going to bring, if I'm mean to an agent and I bring them an offer 2 months down the road, they're going to remember that. I mean, like, play nice. This is, we all need to get along. We all need to get along really well, and have a mutual respect for each other. And that's one of the most important things in this specific market as well. Getting an offer accepted. I've said so many times, look, Mr. Seller, this is the agent that you definitely want to work with. They're respectful. They're very good at what they do, and they'll get you to closing. And that's the most important part. I've worked with them in the past. They're very good to work with, and it helps. So.
Thank you.
We keep seeing
real producers there, Troy. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We keep seeing the same agents over and over again. There's a very, like 25% of all the total agents are the ones that are productive. So you're right. All of you are absolutely correct.
Mhm.
Out of curiosity, Mark brought up earlier, and we're going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes, but Mark brought up earlier the 5 steps that I think were powerful just to simplify the process of lead gen, lead follow-up, going on appointments, meaning, perfecting your pitch, right? Negotiating your contracts, having those negotiation skills, and then the idea of developing that muscle through scripting and role playing until it becomes just a way of doing business rather than just somebody that they got done right the first time. In your experiences, are there certain areas of those 5 steps that you have noticed that most agents struggle with the most? When they're having a hard time trying to become a mega agent, is it always a lead flow issue, or most of the time do you find? Is it usually more, or is it they've done okay with leads, but they're just for whatever reason having a really hard time getting the pitch down and actually converting those leads to something fruitful? Are there negotiation challenges that you've noticed as a common theme? What are some of the things you've noticed in those 5 steps that you think hold a lot of people back?
It's follow-up for sure.
Follow up.
Yeah.
Follow up?
Yeah, they get a lot of new agents. They'll follow up once or twice, and then, oh, this is a bad lead, I'm going to give up. Sometimes you have to follow up 100 times. Like Mark said, he went back 20 times to get the Dunedin FSBO. Like you had to follow up forever sometimes, but those are the most loyal clients that you'll ever have. But that's what new agents do that all the time. I see it here. They'll be like once or twice, oh, it's a dead lead. No, you need to put that on, put it somewhere and do an auto drip or something and keep your name in front of them and follow up. And I think that's the hardest part for agents.
Yeah.
I think that our industry, well, not our industry, I think a lot of people, especially when they're new, are willing to buy leads wherever they need to. I see them looking for all these different lead generation pipelines, like Ideal Agent or Zillow or whatever else, and they want to have all this inbound stuff where it's an inbound call where somebody says, hey, I'd like to buy a house this afternoon. Yeah. And if it's any harder than that, they're not interested in that at all. Yeah. And it's that follow-up, and it's making it happen. You don't have to only call FSBOs. Like I said earlier, there's 150 different ways that you can do lead generation. And if you're only going to work with incoming buyers that have that phone call, hey, I'd like you to write a contract on this house. Well, when the industry changes at some point in the future, there's commission compression happening every day in our market. Well, then you're not controlling your own career because you're inbound buyer based instead of controlling your career with listings. And so I think they're not willing to get to an uncomfortable place, to become comfortable in the uncomfortable places. That's what I have found.
There's a reason why there's a saying, the fortune is in the follow-up, no matter what business that you're in. That's for sure. And have you guys found that it's like people just don't know that that's the case? Or do you feel like there's I don't know if I want to make that investment in some sort of a follow-up automated system and that's where there's the hang up? Or what do you guys think is the reason why follow-up is so horrible in most cases?
They feel like they're going to bother or they feel like they're bothering that potential lead. And in all reality, I've had agents come to me that say, hey, I called them 16 times. And when they finally answered, they said, Tim, thank you so much for all your great follow-up. I just wasn't ready, and now we are. I mean, that's 90% of the time, that's what's going to happen. So, you know, you feel like you're bothering them. There's something, you don't know what's going on in their life right now. You know, people look for 8 days online on average, before they'll contact an agent. So you just don't know when they've clicked that button and said, I'm interested in this property, and then they blow you off and don't answer your call. You don't know what's going on. So you call them, and then you call them, and then you text them, and then you know, and just document it. And if you look over time, a lot of these touches are 8 to 15 times before you actually get in touch with that agent. And trust me, they're seeing your things. They're seeing whatever you're doing. They're just not ready yet, or you haven't said the right thing yet. So
I agree 100%.
I think most people in real estate, we just talked about it earlier, are into instant gratification. I mean, what we found when we were delivering leads to people is, if it was someone that wasn't buying right now, even though we had generated it and someone's 6 months out, the person just is it, you know, again, you're talking a B team mentality, right? And they see them, you know, there's a difference between being the hunter and the pet. And we're all hunters. We know you got to go catch it. But the pet is like sitting there thinking you're going to feed them. And so when they get that call and the person says, I mean, I just did my Chamber of Commerce tour with a referral yesterday for 3 hours that's moving here in a year for, you know, $1 million house. And most people be like, and I'm in the middle of negotiating $2.5 million deals. So really it was a crappy day to do it. But I made it happen because that's what you do, because we're hunters, and you're like, I'm going to make it happen. And so it's like, I may never get paid. They're looking at other places too, but that's what you do. You plant the seeds, you do the work, and you know that that's how the phone rings in the future. Right. And so many people, like I said, they're thinking, oh, if I'm not getting in a car or doing something, you know, and actually they'll go get in a car and waste time rather than qualify a client because they feel like they're busy rather than really productive and making money, because they feel busy, and busy doesn't make you money. Doing the right things at the right time makes you money. And so I think, again, you know, a lot of people get into this for the wrong reasons. And I think fundamentally disruptors in our industry make it sound like we don't do anything. Oh, they just open a door, write a check, and get a big money. And you're like, yeah, no, that's not really true. So, but they're not prepared, and they're not, you know, and so that's my thinking.
That's a great book, by the way, Kent, that you threw in the chat. Fanatical.
Yeah, Kent. I like it too.
mm-hmm.
I've read that myself. It definitely is a great book.
Nice.
One thing I was also going to say is there's a difference between just following up in a annoying way versus following up in a way that adds value, in my opinion. And so it goes back to kind of positioning yourself as the expert before. Like, if there's a way where you can have some sort of, even if it's an automated follow-up system, but that automated system has like a link to a blog that's relevant to that person somehow, that tells them about the community, like Cyndee said, or even if you know that that person has an occupation outside of real estate, and you can add some value to their occupation in a way that's outside of real estate entirely, but you're adding value. Or you just happen to know the person's favorite sports team, and you send them a link to like a story about an athlete on the team, right? Like whatever it is, something that shows value on the follow-up, I think really seems to move things faster and separates you in a much more effective way than just, you know, the annoying follow-up that, and I agree with Troy, at the end of the day, any follow-up is better than no follow-up. I totally agree with that. But if there's a way to follow up while also adding value, I think you can even get better results from that perspective. All right, we're wrapping up here. Let's end with this rapid fire. Give me one thing that you are excited about for the rest of 2021. One thing that you're fired up about for the rest of this year, or if you want to just say the future, it could be 2022 beyond, market related, something about your business, something about anyone else's business. Give me something that you're excited about moving forward, and we'll wrap up with that. Who wants to go first? Troy?
Super excited about interest rates, growth of the teams, growth of the business, growth of real estate, and seeing everybody succeed at a high level. I love it.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Heather.
I'm excited about seeing more inventory on the market. Makes it a little bit more easy to find your buyers some houses. That's been a struggle for a while. Excited about our new team office that we just opened, and I'm excited to see where my team ends up for the year.
All great stuff. Mark.
I'm excited to be part of this panel and to be on the call because I got like a whole page of notes from all these people that are just pouring into the community here. And then we are kind of reorganizing the structure of our team is right now as well. And it's pretty cool to see what our goals are going to be for next year. So what I'm looking for.
Cyndee, you can bring us home.
Yeah, so I'm excited about being next year's president of Women's Council Network of Tampa, where we can support, in particular, other women-owned businesses. Men are welcome too. And I also am excited about being asked by the future president of NAR to be the next vice chair for NAR's insurance committee, because we have a whole new FEMA risk rating system coming out in October for all of the US, and grandfathering is going away. It's going to be busy, and I'm glad to be able to bring that information back to our community and to my fellow realtors and members. I'm excited about having an awesome year and getting to travel again. Like, it's been I'm someone that likes people, so being stuck in a house after I lost all this weight, I put on weight. So I'm excited to get out and about and like be with like your event. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And it's been awesome to get to know these guys better, because like I said, we usually deal through a phone or an email transaction. It's great to put a name and a face. I'm excited about more of these kind of events for sure.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for all your contributions. I thought we had some great things that we flushed out. If you want to put August 19th on your calendar, if you're a top agent, that's our next big event for Tampa Bay Real Producers, which is going to be we're going to do a happy hour out on a yacht. So it's not the yacht that I'm on right now, but something similar. And if you'd like to chill with us, it'll be a happy hour on a yacht for an hour or so. And then we'll have an after party on the beaches there in Pinellas County. There'll be more info coming out, I would think, within the next week to 10 days, but August 19th is the date. And we'd love to see you guys there. Invite your teams if you're able to attend. So thank you for everything that you guys do to help our community. And you guys have a great week, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, Don.
Thank
Thanks, panelists.
you.
Great job.
Good stuff.
Thank you.